Hey everyone, how's it going? Castle here. What's up, patrons? There's nobody there yet, but I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to handle Patreon, but my page was approved, and that means that there's stuff that I can do for people to be on tiers. $5 might be too expensive for a single tier. I don't know. It might not be that fun. It might not be quite what I want. I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no clue. Okay, all right. So any feedback, any ideas? Like, what could I give for being on different tiers or whatever? Like, I have no clue. Not a damn clue. Nothing. But on that note, there is some good stuff that I have kind of thought about. One of them being that it's somewhat possible that maybe I could do something where there's like a Discord channel, and Discord has pretty decent streaming. I could probably do like special streams for people um, who sub to a certain tier or something like that, and try and do those regularly where you just basically watch me develop. Um, Discord has pretty decent streaming, and um, to me, honestly, that makes more sense than doing the regular like D live streaming and everything like that. But um, I don't know. Okay, I mean that's just one example. I could definitely get like a special group or at least start setting up different tiers when it comes to uh streaming on Discord or or just voice channel. You know, while I'm streaming on D Live or something like that, have like the voice channel go up and everything. I don't know. Yeah, let me know what you think. Like, I mean, I think it's a lot cooler to just be able to be like, yeah, man, just toss me $1 a month or something like that, and like have that sort of be a like a neat little thing. I don't know. The page's advice was to not price too low, but I don't know. Okay. With all that said, though, so X Live's production is going very well. I'm actually very excited about this project. X Live, for anyone who doesn't know, especially if anyone's getting to see this on Patreon, um, I've been doing a vlog series for a while now, and it's been kind of a bit of a roller coaster. So X Alive is a brand new game um, that is utilizing a in-game multiplayer level editor where it's and it is multiplayer, so other people can run around and can fly around and like place stuff, and you can like, let me get a cube over here. Everyone understands placing cubes. All right, where are you, cube? All right, well, let me get a cube over here. See this? See this? Now you can accuse the game of being too much like Minecraft. But day-night cycles and hunger, thirst, and everything like that. Highly inspired by the cyberpunk, post-apocalyptic environment of Blame, where you have these like really big structures. This is not a complete structure. You'll actually start seeing a lot more of the cooler stuff as I continue to progress further. But you start getting this sort of almost Escher-esque style level geometry and everything like that, and these would be like nodes, and then between the nodes, you will have sort of like you'll have more open air, open environments where there's like water and there's plants and trees and stuff outside. And so you'll look at this thing and you'll see these tall walls with like entrances into it and lights up there and everything like that. But then then you have like the sky. Um, you look up and you kind of see like structures that are like floating up in the air and everything like that. Just sort of like this feeling like of you know that being really tiny in this like overly sized post-apocalyptic cyberpunk world. And that's the general idea. Now the multiplayer level editor, I want the game to be kind of open-ended where people can come and go as they want to when they're playing and everything like that. Um, Inspirations kind of come from like something like 7 Days to Die combined with uh, Near Automata combined with I don't know. It's really just kind of meant. It's really kind of its own beast in many ways. I would say actually. Um, so right now it is, right during the day there would be like all this stuff all over the world, and you would kind of just gather resources and you'd kind of explore these large structures and find keys. There's another aspect too as well, which you may or may not have picked up on, is that there's a lot of Quake, like old school shooter influence going on here too, because I just like that space. So this is also a looter shooter as well. So I allow you to actually craft the guns the same way that you will craft the maps. So that pretty much, yeah, that pretty much kind of brings that together. So with that said, everything seems to be working out okay. The one thing that is sticking out to me right now is that if I look at my current to-do list right now, most of the stuff that I have to do is all art related. Now, I'm approaching the appearance of the game first because I'm confident enough that I can do all the other stuff. I'm more concerned with making it look good at this point in time because one of the biggest problems with Revulsion, the last game that I did, the last indie game that I built, solo developed, um, it didn't have very good visuals and it looked kind of clunky and it wasn't very polished. I don't want that to happen again. What I want right now is I want to actually have a very polished, game that, or something that feels a lot more polished and has this sort of like open world feel to it with much larger maps and things of that nature, and having it be a bit more survivally, with different classes that you can play that are based on like humans, transhumans, and uh, sentients, which are fully robotic. Transhumanists who are somewhere in the middle, but they're more tanky. Sentients are damage dealers, and humans are support and builders. So humans are better at for building like structures. Transhumanists can build structures, but are better at crafting, and sentients are really good at just messing shit up, just going in with guns blazing and looter shootering all the way. That's the idea so far. Now, with that said, I would require like if I was to ever have like a dungeon system or something like that, where it would be like tiered with bosses and stuff. Um, you would be required to have a human as a healer or support, um, transhumanist as the tank, and a sentient would be the would be like the damage dealer. So there'd probably be a lot of sentients. Humans are like playing the game on hard mode. Sentients are like playing the game on easy mode because you have less survival mechanics to worry about. But you're more under constant threat of being attacked, so it's a lot more combat involved. Whereas with a human, you kind of want to sneak around, you want to find food, you want to make a farm, you want to build a house or some kind of a fort or something like that. That's the idea anyway. So that's the overall concept of the project. Now, I've noticed that while in multiplayer, there's a lot of lag when you start getting the map start getting really big, and there's a ton of instances and stuff like that. And I now have a solution kind of planned out. Basically, I'm just going to make it so that anytime you use a hierarchical instance, so I'm using something called hierarchical instancing, which allows you to place instances inside of instances so that you can build things very efficiently. You can make this place can have all kinds of bits and parts that are built separately, and then when you modify one of those bits and parts off to the side, it actually makes the it all that work will then come over to the big thing over here. So if I apply textures to like one of these pillar pieces, which is an instance inside of this instance, um, it would allow me to all of the pillars would end up having that same effect, right? And I'm gonna have a lot of videos and stuff like that of me just working like that. I want to try to have multiplayer videos and everything like that. Well, you can't really have multiplayer videos if there's too much lag, right? So the method that I'm going to utilize for the instances is that I'm going to encourage everyone to use instances as much as possible, because the instances can be done in such a way where I don't, it's already the case right now. At the moment, they are all separate objects that are sort of glued together. And if there are actually an instance like this, I can take most of the objects, most of the stuff that is part of one of these bigger chunks, and bring them all into one object with a bunch of components rather than just a whole bunch of separate objects that are all replicating separately. I can actually I can actually do away with that and actually make it so that everyone loads the file from their own computer. So whenever you go to save one of these things when you're working with your friends and everything like that, it actually saves the file locally, and then when it comes time to load an instance, it just everyone loads from this, the same named file, and hopefully everyone has the same file, which will be one of the only problems. Is if like somebody sees something that you don't, means that they don't have the same file. You have to make sure that they do. So you have to go over to the outside of the map and then drag it out and then fucking hit save, and then they'll get a copy of it, and then in which case it'll change everything out over here. So I'm hoping that a lot of this still makes sense. That this will end up being a lot cooler, I think, um, once you see it in action. That's the thing. But once I get that in place, where it's actually like you're starting to see like um, the objects are there's a lot a lot of that extra stuff is not being replicated anymore. It's just like all of this is just literally one object being replicated, and all that object is literally one little blue square that has a string on it that points to the file that it's currently loading and everything like that, right? Now, this is also the first video I've actually shown the entire day-night cycle thing and everything like that. I'm planning on, for consistency's sake, I'm probably going to go in and replace these graphics with the more, pixelated style that I have currently going on, like right with the rest of the game. The game uses a pixelated art style that's easier for a solo developer to actually do. Um, so once I really just need to get this instancing thing done, and then really the only things I have left to do are going to be just like change the title screen from Revulsion 2. Right now it still says Revulsion 2. I've actually branched off, and this is a different kind of game, being open world survival and everything like that. So I do have some actual like things that I can bring up as well. So gathering resources, right? Now, one of the first things that I want to get in place is like the first tier for gathering resources, and have like a working example of that in a simpler map. Basically, I want to have it so that you can gather different types of metal. Maybe this would be like more about like collecting different types of metal, or gems, or like maybe having wood. I don't know. If I decide to have trees, I don't want the player running up and punching a tree. You know what I mean? I want to have some kind of a thing. I'm not really sure if I'm even a fan of how like No Man's Sky does it, where you walk up to a tree and shoot it with a laser beam until you get all the tree. It's a little weird to me. I'd never really liked that. I think the like poking through like this is actually a bug because it's nighttime. There shouldn't be any light coming through at all. At this point in time, it should just be total darkness almost. Um, with that said, I don't, I'm trying to think like I'm thinking of maybe like everybody, all three of the classes end up getting some kind of like a multi-tool of some sort. Some kind of a thing that is sort of baseline to their character, where they can, or maybe it's something that you have to collect or something like that, right? Since this is a looter shooter, I'm not going to make it so that your toolbar is filled up with just guns, but I'm also going to make it so that you have like set slots that you can use for your guns. So I guess you'll have your toolbar where all of your tools go, and then you'll have your gun bar over here, and that'll be where your health is and stuff like that, right? And I'm thinking that sentients can get access to different kinds of guns. Maybe they have a couple slots where you can put any kind of weapon that you want. Like if you want to put a pistol or a shotgun, you can. But then they also have like a heavy weapons, um, you know, uh, uh, advanced and utility type stuff, right? Um, maybe it's sort of like that. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say exactly. Any ideas at this point in time, though, are definitely welcome because I'm planning on getting this into a semi-playable state very soon. I don't want to have something that's just floating around, some pie in the sky idea that I'm eventually going to put together. I'm pretty gung ho on this one. I think this is going to be a good thing, especially if I nail the optimization for world building with friends and everything like that, and then making it so that the instancing is working correctly. There's still going to be a pretty decent amount of lag when you play the game using the level editor versus actually just loading the game up properly without the editor support it, and everybody is just either a floating around spectator or actually playing a character who's actually just playing the game, right? um I load the world differently. I load it more optimally for that kind of stuff, but the level editor can't afford everything to be set up in such a simple way. With that said, though, um I don't know. I'm trying to think. I mean, kind of catch up because I think I was probably just mostly mind dumping. Honestly, there's really not much else to say I could think of off the top of my head. All I can say is that I'm pretty excited about this. I wanted to work on an open world survival game. I haven't worked on one since Subnautica. And in Subnautica, I handled most of the survival mechanics. So, I was a part of the project very early on, when most of that stuff was coming together, and I was the one who kind of led the direction on a great deal of it. We ended up nailing it pretty much, well, almost nailing it like on the first try too. So, I definitely want to have that kind of Subnautica feel, but this is going to be a lot. This is going to be a bit more of a shooter. This is going to be a bit more of a combination of things that really haven't really been done before. There will be no zombies, but there will be different factions. There will be different things. There'll be different types of NPCs that take over certain areas. Like a node might get taken over by a human faction or something like that, and then you can befriend them somehow by, with a simple dialogue box that pops up and like maybe do things or bring them items that allows you to gain rep grinding with them and things of that nature so that you can get better and better stuff from them. That's probably going to be one of the only ways that sentience can really progress, is because sentients are really mostly combat focused. They don't really have the ability to build a fort or craft their own guns, so they're going to have to be the ones that run out and kill the things and stuff like that, so that they can get the resources that they need in order for you to be able to rep grind with different factions and stuff like that. Um, there's a lot of stuff that's still up in the air, but that's pretty much the entire gist of it. That's the whole project, honestly. That is it. Very cyberpunk as well. Another aspect that I didn't mention when it came to another aspect that I didn't mention when it comes to the transhumanist is that they're sort of the debuffers, and I think when when you're doing a full out first person shooter, you have buffers and debuffers. Like the humans would be the ones that have the buffs and the heals, and they're basically a support class, whereas the transhumanists or a tanking class tends to, knock enemies back with attacks. They're the sort of the Reinhardts, the Divas, the, Zarias kind of a thing. Like, they tend to be a lot tougher, a lot bulkier, but they still have a lot of human aspects to them, and they're really good at crafting stuff. They have, these crazy minds that allow them to develop, but they don't really quite bother, with actually building forts or crafting stations and things of that nature. You kind of need a human for that. And then, you know what I mean? So, like, that's basically it. I mean, I can keep going. It's just, that's the idea. So, within the next couple of days, I'm going to do another update video, and I'm going to talk about the instancing system If the instancing system can be improved in the way that I think it can be, then we're really in good shape for making sure that performance is going to be very optimal, even in environments that are unusually detailed. So there'll be plenty of stuff like that. I just don't know how. I just don't know off the top of my head how I want to do the like. Do I just have like resource nodes that sometimes spawn like possible spawn points, and you kind of just sort of seek them out? Maybe you have like a way to scan for them, and then once you find one, you pull out your multi-tool or whatever, or a pickaxe or something, and and then there you go. Like maybe it would be something like that where you get these items so that you can collect those resources in some way. Um, I don't know. I like the idea of having to use like a pickaxe or something though. You know what I mean? Like I like the ability to have um a wrench or a pickaxe or some kind of more dated tool or something like that, where it's actually like a functioning object that you utilize to break apart a resource node of some sort, and then maybe you can have like systems and skill trees and things of that nature, which determine like what kinds of nodes you can actually break apart and things of that nature. I want the game to be something where you're kind of dependent on your friends, and if you're not, then it takes longer to do it because then you have to rep grind with a certain faction, and hopefully things will come together with them. All right, so with that said, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna end this video now. There's a lot of stuff. There's definitely a lot of stuff in this. But yeah, very soon, I'll be doing a lot of level design stuff and getting ready for the actual core design, the core loot, where I guess it'll be mostly just like low tier, low grade weapons, um, low grade gear, like that first tier and everything like that. There is one extra thing that I was thinking about though, and it actually sort of encouraged by Made in Abyss. I don't know if you've seen the anime. The further down you go, the harder things get, right? Well, imagine a sort of open world survival game where you can keep going down further. And if you go down really far, you end up with more debuffs. There's more problems. There's stronger enemies and stuff like that, right? So maybe you start off kind of like up higher, and then you kind of work your way down, right? And things just keep getting harder and harder as you go, as you continue to go down. Or maybe that would make more sense if it was like if you keep going up higher and higher, like but then if you fall, you're in a lot of I guess you just die or something like that. But like I don't know. All right. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna end this video now. So many things. So many things.